For centuries, the deep, dark ocean has been this source of endless mystery and maybe a little bit of fear. But lately, something's been happening. Something is stirring down there. We're seeing a series of bizarre, unsettling events that have scientists and storytellers alike asking, what is going on? So, what is happening in our oceans? I mean, seriously, all across the globe, marine animals are acting in ways we have never seen before. And it's not just one or two isolated incidents. This is a global pattern, and it's way too widespread to just write off as a coincidence. And I mean, it is happening everywhere. In Tasmania, you've got 150 killer whales. We're talking the ocean's apex predators, found stranded on a beach, seemingly terrified to go back into the water. At the exact same time, 700,000 turtles make this insane 9,000-kilometer journey from Mexico all the way to India. Thousands of dead fish wash up in Kerala. And get this, even creatures from the absolute blackest depths, like this anglerfish, are showing up at the surface. Something is clearly, deeply wrong. Now here's what's really wild about all this. We've mapped more of the surface of Mars than we have of our own ocean floor. It's kind of mind-blowing, right? A staggering 95% of our oceans are still totally unexplored. It's a world of crushing pressure and complete darkness. So when the things that live down there start desperately fleeing to the surface, what on earth could that mean? Well, to find an answer, some people are looking not to modern science, but back, way back into history. See, for thousands of years, ancient cultures have passed down stories of this monstrous, ancient power lurking in the abyss, a creature whose awakening always comes before a great disaster. They had a name for it, Leviathan, a creature of just unbelievable size and power, a giant, coiled sea monster whose rage could swallow ships whole and whose very appearance meant that destruction was coming. It's a legend that has haunted sailors for millennia. And listen, this wasn't just some simple sailor's tall tale. The descriptions in ancient texts, like this one from the Book of Job, they paint this terrifying picture of a creature that's basically beyond human understanding, a literal force of nature. So you have to wonder, is it possible that the strange events we're seeing today are the signs of this mythical beast stirring from its sleep? Okay, this is where myth starts to get really blurry with reality. I want you to meet the oarfish. This is a bizarre deep-sea creature that is almost never seen by humans. In Japanese folklore, it's known as a messenger from the sea god's palace, and when one shows up on the coast, it's taken as a direct warning that a disaster is on its way. And when you look at the historical record, this chilling pattern starts to emerge. Back in the 15th century, an oarfish shows up, and it's followed by a massive ship-sinking storm. In 1855, one shows up right before a huge earthquake flattens Tokyo. And maybe you remember this. In 2011, dozens of these deep-sea fish washed up in Japan just before the tsunami that took 20,000 lives. I mean, that's a correlation that is really, really hard to just dismiss. So what we've got here are two totally different explanations. On one hand, you have the ancient belief, the wrath of a sea god, a monster awakening from the deep. But on the other hand, modern science has a very, very different theory about who the real culprit is. Okay, so let's put the ancient legends aside for a minute and see what science has to say. Scientists argue that the answer isn't some mythical monster, but a very real, very measurable crisis. They think all this bizarre animal behavior is a symptom of a planet under extreme stress. And they've pretty much pinpointed three key pressures we are putting on the deep ocean.
So, number one, global warming. As the surface of the ocean heats up, that warm water eventually sinks, and it actually reduces the amount of oxygen in the deep sea. The animals down there literally can't breathe, so they have no choice but to flee upwards. Then there's our insane plastic pollution, which is just choking marine life. And if that wasn't enough, we have relentless deep-sea mining for oil, gas, and coal that's destroying habitats and polluting the environment on a massive scale.
And just to give you a sense of the scale of this plastic problem, every single year, we dump about 12 million tons of it into our oceans. Animals see it, they think it's food, they eat it, they get sick, and they die. It is an absolutely devastating crisis. Now, to be fair, there is also a natural factor we have to consider. The shifting of tectonic plates deep beneath the ocean floor can cause disturbances that scare animals to the surface. And this might actually be the scientific reason why oarfish sightings sometimes happen right before earthquakes or tsunamis. But while those natural events definitely play a role, the recent pattern, how widespread it is, how many different kinds of animals are involved, it all points overwhelmingly in one direction. The evidence is pretty clear that the primary cause isn't geological, it's human. So here's the unsettling truth. There is a monster disturbing the deep. It's not Leviathan. It's not some ancient sea serpent. The monster creating all this chaos, well, the monster is us. Our actions are the fire and the burning coals that are making the oceans unlivable. Whether you choose to see these events through the lens of ancient myth or through the lens of modern science, the final conclusion is shockingly similar. There is a message coming from the depths. So call it a divine warning, call it a planetary symptom. It really doesn't change the outcome. The oceans, the very place where life on this planet began, are in serious distress. And all these creatures fleeing from the deep, they're the messengers, and they're delivering a desperate signal that we just can't afford to ignore anymore. And that leaves us with one last really chilling question. The ancient legends warned us about a monster that could bring about a great catastrophe. So if we are that monster, and the ocean's frantic warnings keep getting ignored, will we ultimately be the cause of our own destruction? The only difference is, unlike Leviathan, we actually have the choice to stop.